are back. Um, I've had better days as a Phillies fan. I was hoping that this episode would kind of be a celebratory episode of us winning the World Series, but it's not what happened. Momentum's a really weird thing in baseball, and as we saw in this series, we kind of lost all of it. Last time we talked to you guys, we were kind of riding high after splitting in Houston. It's crazy because for through the first three games, it really did look like we were going to take this series. Winning the first game, the odds are in your favor. Winning the third game, super important. But we run into Christian Javier. Everybody knows what happens. Get no hit in the World Series, and this team hasn't looked right since. And yesterday, Game 6, kind of go down without a whimper against Framber Valdez, and Jordan's absolute bomb to center field ended up being the difference. And just like that, it ends. It's weird. Just it's over. It's all over. Just like that. How are you feeling today, Johnny?
I got a very bittersweet taste in my mouth right now. I've had probably the best month of being a Phillies fan in my whole entire life because, this is just at my peak age of being a Phillies fan. And the first year of us doing a podcast and the Phillies make it to the World Series, it was a Cinderella run, but you just want to finish the job when you get those opportunities because you don't get there. Even if you become a better team, the chances of getting that hot and beating all those teams, it's hard to do. And I'm just really disappointed we couldn't finish the job.
Yeah, that's the worst part is knowing that in the future we very well might have better teams. This team has quite a few holes, and we were very rarely the better team in all of these playoff series. You can make an argument for the first series with the Cardinals, but for the most part, we were facing teams better than us. But in the playoffs, it doesn't matter, and we could go out here next year, win 100 games, just like the 2011 team did, the 2011 Phillies, and it doesn't matter because anything could happen in these playoffs, and we could run into a team just like us this year that takes us out. And when you to just get that far, get 2 wins away from a World Series with 2 to play at home, it felt like we just had it within grasp. It felt like we had it, and maybe that's my fault and all of our faults for buying into too quickly. This team has never failed to surprise us with what they do on the field, but I was all in, and it hurts watching it just go away like that. I think the fact that we were on such a trajectory, it's kind of like we just crashed, like we were on a roller coaster and now we're just loop came out of nowhere and now we went down. It's a crappy way to lose. It's a really crappy way to lose a series.
Yeah. I guess it was a November crash or November collapse this year, not a September collapse. But I don't think there's any reason to feel bad buying in. What's the point of going through this run thinking they're going to lose the World Series? What you save yourself a little bit of pain, like just buy in. I think we all did, and it was fun, and it hurts now. It sucks, but life goes on.
Yeah, I guess it has to. So since we last talked, I went to Game 3, and that was the greatest moment in my sports life. It was probably equally as awesome watching on TV, just to see the city back into it, the World Series back in Philadelphia. I had a chance to watch November baseball at Citizens Bank Park, like just a mind-numbing moment there. Dude, to blow out a team 7-0 like that with the home runs, and then I think we went something like seven for like 90 after the 6th inning. How does that happen? Like, how does an offense just go missing like that? Do you think this was a scenario where some of our hotter hitters were cooling off, or do you think we ran into a bullpen and a starting rotation that was just really freaking good, like really good?
Definitely more of the latter. I think a lot of the team was cooling off, but What mostly happened is we ran into a buzzsaw that specifically killed our right-handed hitters at a very high rate. I don't have the numbers on me, but if I had to look up how many strikeouts there are between all of our right-handed hitters this series, it would probably make me cry.
I know I saw. So Rhys Hoskins was like 1 for 22 with 11 Ks. I know JT had the big hit in
Game 1.
game one, but after that, I think he was like 1 for 17. And Castellanos, who got pitched to a ton this series because he couldn't protect Bryce Harper. He couldn't do it. You put him there in hopes that he'll get pitches to hit. But when you go up there swinging at everything and the team knows that you're going to swing at everything, you're not going to get pitches to hit. And there were several at bats where he wasn't even throwing a strike, and he ended up striking out. And, in his defense, he put together some good at bats there towards the end. But man, when I look back on the downfall of this series, it's Rhys Hoskins just going missing. The only reason I knew he was even playing was because he was making errors in the field. That's the only reason I knew he was there. Because his bat, he might as well have not even gone up there with a bat because he wasn't going to hit it. He was ice cold. And then, dude, just please take a pitch, Nick. Take a pitch. Like, the book is out. People know you're going to swing at everything. You're not going to surprise anybody by ambushing them first pitch. It's not going to happen. They're not going to throw you anything that you're going to be able to hit. And even when he got his hits this series, the first game, threw the bat out there on a low slider. I don't even know how he hit that.
Right.
And then what else was there? Was that the highlight of his series?
He had another good catch.
Oh my God. Yeah, he had a good catch. And man, that's frustration building because it was a long 3 days watching them hit. But I can only be so mad because we're still here. Like, at the end of the day, we're in the World Series, so I can only be so mad. But man, what a bad time for those two. If you include JT, those three, and then Bryson Stott, man, didn't get a hit the whole series. Which is, I know it's a good pitching staff. People aren't even gonna think about that. They're gonna just try to blame the hitters, but there's some really tough pitchers for Rhys Hoskins to face. I mean, Javier, he's filthy, man. And it's crazy that they only had to use him once this series. He's their game 4 starter. That man is filthy. Just filthy.
Yeah, he was, I mean, tip of the cap to him. That was an incredible game out of him, and every one of their pitchers really brought their A stuff this series. And I think we said it before games 3, 4, and 5 that our X factors were Stott and Marsh because the lefties, and they basically are exclusively righties in the Astros, and neither of those guys got it done. And Brandon Marsh had that pretty awful game in center field, made a couple mistakes that ended up kind of costing us game 5?
Game 5, big Brandon Marsh strikeout.
Yeah. And the bobble in the outfield that made a large difference. If one less run would have been huge in that game. But I think we clearly saw games 3, 4, and 5. We came back down to reality a little bit, and I think me and you at least realized that there are glaring holes and differences between us and the Astros.
Yeah, we played out of our mind for most of these playoffs, but when you live and die with such streaky players like this, you're prone to stuff like this happening. Like you said, our X factors, some of the guys in the bottom of the lineup weren't really able to step up. As someone who actually had a really good series was Alec Boehm. I don't think anybody's realizing that. Batted 300 against some of the best pitchers in baseball. I don't really know the huge takeaway from the series because I'm too close to it. We're just a day out, but it's such a combination of us running into a really good pitching staff, us having a lot of streaky right-handed hitters that ran into matchup nightmares. Essentially, that's what they were. They're just this Astros bullpen. We have Sir Anthony Dominguez, and they have 5 Sir Anthony Dominguez's. Abreu, Presley, Montero, Hector Neris, dude. They have and Stanek. That's like any 5 of those guys would have an argument for being the best pitcher in our bullpen. Um, Depth got a little exposed here in terms of it's not even that it got exposed. It's just the Astros really flexed their depth on us because as this team got worn down, the big horses, Aaron Nola and Zack Wheeler, we've had to kind of abuse them all season. And it kind of looks like Aaron Nola ran out of gas and we had to go to a game 4 starter, which we didn't really have. And the Astros, their game 4 starter, no hit us. There's a lot of work to be done, and it's going to be a very interesting offseason for sure. But at the end of the day, we got beat by a better team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't want to dwell on this forever, but here we are. So how do you feel about Rob Thompson taking out Zack Wheeler?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. So I think we realized this too late. Alvarado lost something. He was not the same pitcher this series. We were really late to realize it. He came in Aaron Nola's start, plunked Jordan with the bases loaded, and then everything went to shit after that. I mean, double to Bregman, very hittable, not much control. In that situation, it was very different from the Nola outing because Wheeler was still pumping. Like, he was still hitting 97. You had the Martin Maldonado hit by pitch, which was, I mean, it's not like that got away from him. Like, that was kind of over the strike zone. It was well played baseball by Maldonado making that work like that. You don't really consider that to be a bad thing for Wheeler. It's something that he just got outplayed by Maldonado. And then the Pena single, that guy just destroyed us all series.
Yeah.
So I don't really even know how much credit you can put into that because he hit everybody. And you had first and third. You had Wheeler, who was still throwing hard. You had Alvarado, who did he get Yordan Alvarez out this series?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, he didn't get Yordan out. Yordan has reverse splits. Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah, he is like the 5th best OPS ever against lefties in the playoffs.
Yeah,
So we brought in a lefty to face a lefty. In theory, that makes sense, but it's Yordan Alvarez. It doesn't matter. And we just went too long keeping him down. Eventually he was going to have a say in the series somehow. And it ended up happening at the worst possible time. Hindsight's always 20/20, and there's always going to be that group of people who are "I told you so" after a big decision. But that's the way Thompson's managed all series, and it's something that worked for us. I get why he did it, but at a certain point, don't you just have to live and die with the best pitcher on your team there? Zack Wheeler.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually kind of on I got a different opinion about this. It's been a hot-butted issue in Phillies Twitter, and all the fans are talking about it. But Thompson's been hyper aggressive with this all postseason. He doesn't want the guys being seen too much because he doesn't want them getting figured out in the game and letting up a home run. I get that. I'm not going to argue that and dwell on that. But why Jose Alvarado? I'm going to harp on that. I think it should have been Sir Anthony Dominguez. I think he's been the guy that should always face the best part of the lineup. He did it at the beginning of the playoffs, and we just started going away from him because Alvarado had such a good NLCS.
The first thought out of my mind when he brought in Alvarado, I don't know why it came to me, but do you know who I wanted in the game there?
Ranger.
That's a good one. I wanted Connor Brogdon in that game.
Connor Brogdon figured out his changeup at the end of that series.
Dude, Connor Brogdon was insane this series, and he is a nightmare against lefties. and he's a right-handed pitcher. Thompson was never. I don't think Thompson had the balls to make that call, but on paper and with the way the series and these pitchers were going, Connor Brogdon might have been our best option there. That changeup just neutralizes lefties. They don't stand a chance.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's like the thing is like a splitter almost, like with the movement it has on it. It's like
Yeah,
you really don't see a lot of like right-handed guys that can get that much break on a changeup.
Devin Williams is the only other guy who can really control a
Yeah,
changeup like that. He just popped off this series. We don't have to get too much into that. We know
no,
Connor Brogdon pitched well, but yeah, Ranger was another good idea. I still just think Wheeler was a good idea because the stuff looks so sharp, and it's a tough call. You know, it's going to be something we're all going to dwell on, and we don't know the right answer. It's not anything we should really be beating Thompson up too much for because it wasn't like Blake Snell in 2020. I see that comparison a lot. That was completely different. It was like the fifth inning, and Snell had like 55 pitches or something. It was not like that. Wheeler probably wasn't going to be pushed too much in that game anyway. And you only want a pitcher facing Jordan so many times. You know, it makes sense. You and I were texting earlier in the series that we shouldn't let our pitchers face Jordan 3 times, and that's kind of what we're saying should have happened now. So we can't really switch up there. But no, I do get both sides of it.
It's the hindsight gang right now. Everyone's saying Rob Thompson pulling Zach is going to be like go down as one of the worst Philly managing decisions of all time, and that's frankly that's bullshit because if Zack Wheeler faces him and he starts tiring, which we've seen him do numerous times later in games, if he slows down and leaves a fastball over the plate that's like 94, 95 miles per hour, then the same shit happens. So I think people would have complained if Wheeler let up a home run or if Alvarado let up a home run. They just want someone to blame. It sucks that we just got to face that.
The move that I think probably deserves more criticism, it's not that. It would probably be leaving Castellanos in that fifth spot just to get carved up all series. I get keeping the status quo and trusting your guys, but you got to find a way to put a better hitter there and to protect Bryce because Bryce didn't get anything to hit after game 3. It's just why would you face Bryce if you have Castellanos behind him? It sucks, but there needed to be a change there.
Really, Bohm should have been in the second spot or the fifth spot. He's a guy that actually knows what to do with the fastball down the middle. Castellanos and Rhys Hoskins prefer to look at it. Castellanos swing his shoes off. Well, no, he'll look at the fastball and then swing at the slider.
You just want a better hitter there. Someone who
You
can
do.
make adjustments in game. And Rhys Hoskins and Castellanos do not make adjustments in game. They make adjustments. Well, I don't think Castellanos makes adjustments, but Rhys makes them. He learns it as he's like, between games and, he tweaks himself throughout the season, but he doesn't do it in game. And that's why he has these 0 for 4 games. Alec Bohm is much more aware of who he is as a hitter, and he's willing to take a pitch where it's hit. All these guys are trying to yank a home run just right down the line in that short porch in left field. And in the playoffs and against these pitchers, you don't get the opportunity to do that. You have to take what you get. And that's going to be something that I'm going to probably remember because, dude, just it sucked watching that game 4, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. Bryce Harper was up, down 1. They hit Bryce Harper, and I'm like, damn, this game's over. This game's over. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. He had a good at bat, but you just can't get by with that profile against these pitchers. You're going to be exploited so much.
I'm kind of a part of the crowd that does believe this is as bad as Nick Castellanos can have in a season. I don't think there's any lower for him. I think he can only go up from here. But Jesus, I mean, it really just looks like his body's not even connected to the goddamn bat. even if he touches the ball, it's just gonna be a flare. He doesn't have gap power this year. Like I thought worst case scenario, if when we signed him this year, if he didn't hit like 25, 30 home runs, he'd be like a 30 doubles guy. The doubles weren't even there. What?
Yeah, we thought we were getting like peak JD Martinez, and we ended up getting like Javi Baez, and it sucks.
Fuck. I mean, that's actually a very good way to put it.
Yeah, no, it's just it sucks. But you're right. There's only one way to go from here. And for all those people who I didn't look into this too much, who are reaching out to his family on Twitter and like what are we doing? Seriously, what that's his support network. Like what are we gonna help by going at his support network? I didn't see what was said. Did you see any?
Oh, I think what happened is someone at the game was was talking shit to his wife.
Why?
Because as much as I don't mind admitting it, 25% of this fan base has no boundaries.
You're right. That's fair to say.
And we can't do that. That's Philly is finally the silver lining of all this is Philly is finally becoming an attractive free agency and destination for players and other teams. Don't fuck it up by being like that.
Yeah, you want these guys to be completely comfortable here, and you want them to feel that you don't want them to have to go out there and worry about like their family as they're playing the game. And it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, it's just a game. So don't do that. I don't know who did that, but that does not represent us and the majority. He frustrated the crap out of me this whole series, but I have high hopes for him in the future, and it's only going to get better, especially when he can get out of the field and DH, even though he's turned into a pretty good fielder, which I never thought I'd say.
Josh, that brings me to another question. Is Bryce Harper getting surgery? And what is the timeline? You're a guy that has some knowledge about pitching and surgeries.
Yeah, so today is November 6th, and if the Phillies were smart, they would have him get Tommy John November 7th tomorrow, because the sooner the better. You don't want him missing any more time than he has to. And I was seeing that if he got it October 1st or whenever the season ended, they were expecting a May return. I know Rhys Hoskins got shut down in August and was back by April. So that puts them at, let's say 7-8 months. Now, if he DHs, I think he can come back sooner. I don't know the rules on that, but it would make sense if he doesn't have to throw. Why can't he just hit? Like I don't know. I don't think we have many scenarios of like a DH tearing their UCL, and there's just not a precedent for that. But if he gets surgery today, and he's on the typical timetable for a position player to come back, we're probably looking at a June return. It's Bryce Harper, so you have to probably give him 2 weeks earlier than that, just because he's like superhuman. So at the earliest, probably late May for Bryce Harper if he gets Tommy
So you're
John.
saying returning to right field, not DH.
Yeah, so that's right field. I don't know the DH plan. I don't know if they would even want to like test that, but you do want his bat.
Frankly, I don't think we can begin next season with him as our DH. I think we should hold him out until he is able to play right field. I think we should just take it slow. I think we should have a good offseason and have pieces to hold us down while Bryce is out. But I think we got to get him right, and him being the DH takes away from our offensive prowess.
Yeah, so I'd imagine Derek Hall would fill in at DH for probably 6 weeks or so. That would probably be the plan.
Pending off-season moves, yeah.
All right, well, that's something you could live with. Yeah, that's one casualty of this long postseason run is we get less Bryce Harper next season. But on the topic of Bryce Harper, I hope this isn't like the closest opportunity he gets to a ring, because I really want that guy to get a ring. You can tell how much he wants this city, and with all the national stuff Like, I just want that guy to just get it over with and just get the ring that he really wants and kind of complete his story. You know, I feel really bad that he wasn't able to, quote, bring that shit home, quote.
Yeah, it sucks. He got close, and there's always like this is just more fuel for the Bryce haters. Bryce can't win a ring. He's not a championship player. He's the reason the Nationals won it. He hears it all. I'm sure. I'm sure he hates it. But there's no. I know a lot of people are worried about that just because how scarce a World Series victory is for a city. But this guy got a taste of what it's like to get deep into November or get into November. And we got guys like Schwarber now, and we built a culture. They brought back a winning culture to the city. I don't think the fans are going to forget it. I already know people that got the Sunday season plan that didn't even watch baseball like this, like regular season. A lot of people bought in, and I think a lot of other players, free agents, are going to buy in, and I think Bryce Harper's going to get a shot with an even better team.
I hope so. We'll get into the team later because I know that there's a lot of changes coming to this team. There's a lot of faces that won't be here next season. But so after kind of watching our pitching staff this series, has your view changed on Aaron Nola? Do you think that the situation was too big for him, and do you think that he is the big game pitcher we hoped he was after we saw like the first half of this playoffs? Because he kind of killed us this series. I've been a stern defender of Aaron Nola till the very end, but he killed us this series. I'm a big Nola guy. I don't like bashing Nola because I think people forget that.
I think you bashed him before.
Have I? What did I say?
I think when we were talking about big game pitchers, I think you said he was done with that earlier in the postseason.
Yeah, no, I know we don't get here without him, but dude, he killed us this series. We didn't get anything out of what was supposed to be our 1B ace.
Well, I think exactly what happened is Zack Wheeler and Aaron Nola are just they're our two best pitchers, but good teams have four of those guys. There would not be nearly as much pressure on those Wheeler Nola games if we have two other guys with the same exact talent. I don't. What I'm trying to say is I don't think we're a championship team until like Nola could be like a 3 or 4 guy. Like if Nola's our 3 and then Rangers are 4, and we have a new 1 and 2, then we can go toe to toe with the Astros pitching staff.
Yeah, you're talking another.
I'm not knocking what
that's
he
a
pitched
$200 million
innings.
investment. Yeah, I know, but that's a $250 million investment to make Aaron Nola a 3 starter. It's just a question of whether going forward, we can count on him to be a big game pitcher because everything we thought he could be, he showed us, and then it was just taken away. You know, I don't know. I wish I knew why. You know, I just wish I could know why.
He faced a better team.
But he no-hit that team several weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's baseball. Shit changes.
He wasn't able to make an adjustment either. I mean, Zack Wheeler didn't have his velocity. I don't know. I feel like it's so frustrating with Aaron Nola because it's always you just don't know.
Aaron Nola, I'm really tired of this because Aaron Nola is what he is at this point. We know exactly who he is. He's never going to be a sub-3 pitcher. He's a guy that will eat innings for us at a very high quality rate. Our 235 innings this year. Absolutely ridiculous. No one else came even close to that.
I hear you. I do. But you really have to start to think if we want a team that's going to go deep into the playoffs, we can't get to the World Series and just have Aaron Nola no show. You can't build a team like that. I mean, that's like going out and getting a big game quarterback who just gets to the playoffs and just shits the bed. I mean, I don't want to think this way, but after seeing what I saw this series, if we're pointing fingers, Aaron Nola deserves some blame this series. I mean, we can't point at Nick Castellanos and not point at Aaron Nola, and not point at Jose Alvarado. Any of these guys, if they showed up, you don't know how the series goes. I'm not one for pointing fingers, but it's definitely worth noting.
Yeah, then again, it's not like Aaron Nola, we brought him in to be like our number one ace. That's what Zack Wheeler was. And I think we just need more high quality starting pitching.
I hear you. And next World
Series, I think it would take pressure off Wheeler and Nola.
So what you're saying is next World Series we need Andy Painter going Game 3.
Andy Painter needs to be our Game 2 or 3 starter in next year's World Series.
We're putting pressure on a 21-year-old kid who hasn't made his debut yet. I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. We need more. We need more pitching. And don't let Ranger Suarez get to a Game 7 because, man, that guy's a beast. Ranger's a beast in the playoffs.
Yeah, Ranger has that dog in him.
Ranger's a beast, man. I knew Ranger was gonna. I don't think anyone was expecting Ranger Suarez to no-show, but man, that guy has ice in his veins, dude. And if we were a basketball team, I would want Ranger taking the last shot no matter what. I have full faith in that guy.
Yeah, Ranger is built differently. You could just tell how confident he was pitching in that game. It just he was kind of pitching with like this like fuck you mentality. The nonchalant ground ball that he like line drive he dropped and then just walked over and flung it to first was just, I mean, Ranger should be like our World Series MVP for contributing, but
yeah, that man saw the Astros splits against lefties and he said, "I don't care," and he went out there and shoved. He probably. In hindsight, he should pitch as much as he can in a series. We should design our rotation around him pitching, even if he's not the best regular season pitcher. He's a beast when it matters. But yeah, I mean, the book's closed on a just absolutely insane 2022 season. Gave us a ton of moments, just a ton of good moments, bad moments, just all kinds of stuff. What's going to be the big thing you remember from this postseason?
That's a loaded question, man.
Got to give me one. Got to pick one.
One thing that I'm going to remember from this postseason? I mean, all of it, man. I probably thumping the Braves. I mean, I was at that game. That was part of this postseason that I got to be at in person. I'll never forget that moment. That was probably the coolest thing ever.
Swing of his life, Bryce Harper in the NLCS sending us to the World Series. Rhys Hoskins bat flip, Game 3 against the Braves. JT Realmuto's home run, Game 1 of the World Series. And I'm very much going to remember Game 3 of the World Series because I was there, and so many big hits from this team. JT's inside the park home run. Just a red October for the ages, man. It's been fun. Like I said, this was all house money, which makes it just even more special. And no matter what happens, I mean, no matter what kind of start we get off to next year, you can never count the Fightins out because this team, this core is so battle tested now. They got a taste of the chase, the World Series chase, not just the playoff chase. And they'll be back, and I'm sure of it. I'm not sure whether this team will ever win a World Series, whether we'll ever get there again, but it's a good team, and we'll be back. You have anything else you want to hit in terms of this just October for the ages?
Yeah, I guess I just like to say that I'm proud to be a Phillies fan, and I never thought when we started this podcast in like January that I remember our first episode. I actually listened to it recently, and we were just talking about how much Matt Klentak butchered this team and how there's no culture. And that was our big takeaway from our state of the organization. Our first ever episode was that this team has no identity, no culture, no leaders, and that every one of those things changed this year. And now we have all three of those things, and we have a lot of memories to go along with it.
Yeah, we have a team that plays for each other now. You hear stories about them having beers, around the clubhouse, celebrating all the good moments, and that's something that the good teams have. They have that chemistry and that those moments, those moments they share together. If this is the last time we see some of these faces, these Gene Seguras, um, thank you guys for everything they did, and can't wait for next season. Only 100 days now. I think it's 100 on the dot
Wow.
for spring training. So quick turnaround here. I mean, we're already in November, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, in 100 days, we might see a very different looking team. Who's to tell? But I think in about 2 weeks, me and Josh will give you guys a free agency preview wish list. I think we're both going to give you our own predictions, and we'll get the offseason going, get the hot stove moving.
Absolutely. So we're going to be coming to you guys bi-weekly going forward because as we saw last season, the MLB offseason, it has some moments, but ultimately it's kind of boring. So we'll be keeping up with the big news. Anything happens, any big signings, you'll hear from us. And yeah, I have a ton of ideas. I don't know about you, but I have a ton of ideas about what this team could do.
Yeah, I'd love to be in Dombrowski's chair right now, making some decisions, because I think I could cut the fat from this team and make them the Goliath. We're no longer David. I'm going to make us Goliath.
I like the sound of that. All kinds of content coming you guys' way. And as always, thank you guys for listening on this this magical season. I guess this concludes this season of the Double Switch podcast, and we will be back for more. In the meantime, Eagles are firmly underway, and I guess this is when the city kind of shifts to Eagles mode. So give a follow and a listen to our parent company, Pick Swap Media. They have all kinds of Sixers content, Eagles content, and before you know it, the Double Switch will be back in season. And we will talk to you guys soon. Thank you guys for listening.